happy Monday. We will go ahead and get started. So, our next person on is going to be David Ballin, who is the Senior Heat Director at PUMA. He spent more than 15 years inside one of the world's most recognizable sports and lifestyle brands, leading teams across merchandising, consumer insight, and now driving partnerships and cultural moments. So, we're super pumped to have you here, David. Kind of tell us about what got you into the industry and how you spent 15 years at Puma now.
Yeah, well, thank you for that intro. Even before I start, first and foremost, like to say thank you to you all that are on this call for your service. I'm aware that you guys are all veterans, and I have a high amount of respect and appreciation for what you've done in your military service. So thank you. Um, Next, so how I got started and how I'm ended up in this role. My journey actually began a long time ago. When I was probably about 10 or 11 or so, I got my first pair of Jordan 11s, which if you're not familiar, it's the one with the patent leather on the toe and it's one of the more famous ones. But I got my first pair of Jordan 11s, which sparked my interest in sneakers. Um, I have a Caribbean background, so my parents were not very supportive of my sneaker habit, so I had to work and, do odd jobs to buy my sneakers, but I was very much into it and I spent pretty much every dime I earned collecting sneakers and making sure I had the newest releases and things like that. But getting that Jordan 11 really sparked an interest for me in the footwear industry because it was mind-blowing to me. It was the first time I'd ever seen patent leather on sneakers. Prior to that, I'd only ever seen patent leather on church shoes, dress shoes, it was what sparked my interest into starting to think, who came up with that, who was the person that, made this come to life and things like that. So that sparked my interest way back then. When I got to college, I played basketball in college, was sponsored by New Balance, and you know, because I was such a sneaker aficionado, I took a high interest in that business and built some relationships with people at New Balance. And when I was graduating from college, I ended up applying for a job there and ended up going to work there. I started in customer service, really at the entry level, answering phones, dealing with irate customers, whether they were from actual retail stores, so the Foot Lockers of the world, the Snipes, the JD Sports, or actual individual customers that were buying directly from New Balance, whether it's through stores or through the website. Yeah, I answered a lot of phones, but the lucky thing for me is that New Balance, starting off there in customer service, they do have what they call work share programs, which allows you to do let's say intra-company internships in different departments to start to understand, what different departments do, what different roles are, what sparks your interest, right? Because really customer service is a feeding ground for the larger organization. And a lot of people aren't aware of the forward industry in general and the many aspects of it that create jobs and opportunities. Most people are more familiar with design, the ambassadors part of it, definitely the sports part of it, marketing, uh, but not a lot of people are aware of the logistics sides of it. The business development side of it. Even my role as a partnership manager, things like that are even for me as I was starting in the forward industry and did some research, I wasn't aware of all the opportunities. So those intercompany internships or workshare programs allowed me to dip my toe in many different aspects of the organization and start to understand how what other opportunities were out there for me and really what sparked my interest. And so what was the main thing that I took away from that those internships was that I was obviously, as I knew, very into product and really wanting to be on the product development side to a certain degree. But I'm not an artist. I've never been able to draw. I don't have any real artistic talent in that regards in your traditional sense. But I, was into fashion, into understanding how consumers were dressing, styling their clothing, pairing their clothes with shoes and things like that. I went to college. I graduated with a degree in business administration and corporate communication. So I was interested in the business aspect of it. So the combination of my product interest and then my business interest led me into merchandising, which is, if you're not familiar, a function within most, if not all, retail and manufacturing companies that really what merchandising does is we're the brain trust between multiple uh multiple different departments. So if you think about marketing and product development and sales and how those functions interact, we're the glue between all of them. So we create the assortments that the product sells. So assortments being the product lines that we sell. We put those things together, price them appropriately, assign them to specific consumer demographics so that when sales is going out, they understand who that product is meant for. So when they're talking to retailers that buy our product, they can articulate who that product is for, what its usage is, what its end usage is, what its cultural relevance is, and the like. We do the same for marketing. So we help them understand, again, who this product is for, who they should be targeting with, the imagery, the content, all the functions of marketing that they bring to the table, ensuring that it's laddering up into who the salespeople are talking about in terms of the end consumer. And then, whether it's customer service or any other department when it comes to the actual product assortment and how it's being priced or where it's intended for. That's a merchandising role and a merchant role to make sure that the entire organization is singing from the same sheet of music from our strategic priorities down to when the product actually is in the market. Um, so I went into merchandising, started merchandising at New Balance. Really, I was in customer service at New Balance for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I spent the rest of my career there in merchandising, which ended up being about a 5.5 year stint there. Before in 2011, I went to PUMA. So I've been at PUMA for almost 15 years now. Next April will make 15 years. I started there as a merchant, right? I started at Puma as a merchant. I joke all the time. I was at Puma, I was at New Balance. I was the lifestyle guy at a running company, right? And then I came to Puma to be the running guy at a lifestyle company. But quickly, my role changed when I came over. We stopped focusing on performance running as much, which I'll come back to because we have reemerged as a player in that category, but we stopped focusing on that back in 2011, 2012. And then I moved over to really head up our lifestyle team from a merchandising standpoint, men's lifestyle team from a merchandising standpoint. Did various functions in merchandising, whether it was account merchandising, really being customer facing. So again, I had lifestyles top to bottom. So going from the boutique accounts, if you're not familiar, so boutiques would be like Kith and Bodega and Concepts. These are high-end lifestyle sneaker shops that really sell like limited edition, high-end product, right? All the way down to, and everything in between, all the way down to the famous footwears and the Kohl's of the world that really focus on more accessible product, value product, things that are lower priced and, like I said, much more accessible. And then in between Foot Lockers, Journeys, Finish Line, because when I started this, JD Sports didn't even exist in North America, things like that. So I had a lot of account facing responsibilities, and that came with like I said, building assortments, preparing sales, but actually presenting directly to the highest levels of those organizations to get buy-in on our strategic directions and the assortments that came from those strategic directions. So yeah, I did that for many years, and then I went into a full product role. So I became the head of our regional creation team, which, just to give you some context, PUMA is a German company. Our world headquarters is in Herzogenaurach, Germany. It's right across from Adidas. Adidas and PUMA were founded by brothers. They were one company at one point. They broke apart, becoming two of the three largest footwear companies in the world, manufacturers in the world. But they still have their headquarters now in Herzogenaurach, Germany. So our main product range is developed in Germany. But as you can imagine, it's fairly Eurocentric and does not necessarily meet the needs of um, a North American consumer entirely. And so that's where our regional creation teams really come in. So it's regional creation teams for North America, one for Asia, one for Africa. Like we have them all over the place. My function as the head of the regional creation team was for the Americas. So I had North America and Latin America as well, right? So I headed up that team for a few years before I moved back over to merchandising to become the director of merchandising, really overseeing, a larger team that was in the role I was in before, whether it was customer facing, dealing with accounts, or inward facing, dealing with the German team and ensuring that, we're getting what we need from them in terms of tools and product and things like that. But anyway, so actually I skipped over something. So the regional creation team really supplements what comes from the German team. So when I was the head of the regional creation team, we created products, right? So we literally briefed, developed, and created product specifically for North America. So I spent a lot of time in Vietnam, at the factories, literally looking at how shoes are built, literally, picking materials, negotiating prices, all that with my regional creation team, which consisted of product line managers, designers, and developers. Developers, they really are attuned at picking materials, understanding what the needs are, helping negotiate the prices for materials, searching out for new materials that would excite customers, things like that. Designers are, I'm sure you can understand, designers actually draw shoes and come up with colors and concepts and things like that. And then the PLMs manage that process. So they manage the creatives, so developers and designers being the creatives, to ensure that what they're producing um, ladders up into our strategic intent and executes against the briefs that are given. And I manage those teams as the head of RCC. Um, anyway, getting back to my journey. So after I left RCC, I went back to become director of merchandising for North America. Um, and then quickly after that, I went into a brand strategy role. So I was director of North America for about 18 months, almost 2 years. And then I went into a brand strategy role, which the idea there was is I worked with our CMO at the time, which is our chief marketing officer, our head of brand strategy, the head of creative direction, uh, and really our lawyers and things like that, to make sure that our global strategies and our global brand strategies had, let's say, more roots in North American culture. As I said before, Puma is a German company. So and if you don't know, North America, in particular the US, is the biggest, most competitive, most revenue generating footwear market on the planet. So having a starting point too far away from where your consumer is, your primary consumer, which I also need to add this, it also influences everything that happens globally, right? So if it's not hot in North America, then it's probably not hot anywhere else, right? So you have to win here first in order for for your brand to be a global brand. So having our strategies so disconnected from the North American consumer was becoming problematic. So again, my role was to close that gap and ensure that the global strategies that were being created had some flavor, some influence from what the needs of the North American consumer is, right? So I did that for a few years. And then I took this role, right? So a lot of what I was doing as in brand strategy was dealing with brand partners as well. So again, shaping the global strategy, but really ensuring that our brand partnerships were meaningful to the North American consumer, laddering up into our brand strategies, and then producing things that were effective in the marketplace. So effective in terms of, and we have different metrics, right? So yes, we want to sell a lot of products. So yes, that's one metric, but that's not the only metric. Sometimes brand partnerships are intended to create impressions. So how many paparazzi photos, how many covered it, like how many, th those type of metrics are also very important to a brand like ours because part of the thing is to constantly be one of the things that we strive for and what we have to execute is to constantly be a part of pop culture conversations, be top of mind for the consumers when they're going to make their purchase decisions. So doing that requires, a lot of different tactics, right? So there's product tactics, there's marketing tactics, there's stunts, there's many things we do to keep the brand top of mind with consumers, right? And so that was my main focus in brand strategy. When it came to partnerships now, I deal a lot more, and this is my current role. Speaking of my current role, I deal a lot more with uh, I still have the strategy part, but now I deal with a lot more with the negotiation of contracts, and making sure that the relationships are within our fiscal budget for whatever year or quarter or season that I'm working on. Again, still making sure that they ladder up into our strategic priorities, but most importantly, making sure that they're impactful and effective. Um, um, in terms of reaching the consumer and creating the emotional connectivity that we want with consumers that are looking at our brand and purchasing our brand. Okay, so that's a quick and dirty version of my journey. I do want to make this as conversational as possible. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to stop me. But before we get into questions, I do have a sizzle reel here, which I probably should have started with, but um, I we jumped into the
That's okay.
conversation
Anytime's
early.
a good time for a good sizzle reel.
Yeah, so I will attempt to play this. I'm sorry, I'm not a Zoom person, so bear with me as I figure out how to share my screen here. Let's see. And if please feel free to tell me how to share the screen. How do
There
you
should
share
be a green
this?
button at the bottom that says
Oh,
share.
there
It
it
has
is,
a little
share.
arrow pointing up.
There you go. That makes it
You
easy.
got it.
Okay, so let's do this.
If anybody, while he's pulling out the sizzle reel, if you guys have any questions either about Puma or about the industry, whether it's brand heat or merchandising, raise your hand and we'll get to you right after the video. Or sneakers. Really anything. He went over a lot in the past 15 minutes, so. Oh, it's
It's
working. You're doing
saying that.
something right.
Okay.
We
Hope
can't
the
see.
volume part is
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it's loading up. All we see is a white screen so far.
okay. So, slow.
There we go. Yeah, there's no sound. We'll just imagine that it sounds really cool.
Oh, shoot. Wait, I can hear it. Wait, is there something I need to do to play the sound?
I don't think so.
Hold on, let me try this again.
You mean
If you can't play it,
you
it's not the
have to
biggest deal.
when you share screen, you have to share sound too.
Okay, hold on.
There should be a
Okay,
button.
share sound. There you go.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I could attempt to like do a voiceover for it.
Yeah,
In a
yeah.
world where shoes are more than things that cover your feet. Yeah.
So that's that.
Get Chris into voice acting.
Collective memory. Forever is 75 years of history and a powerful
There
connection
you
with
go.
the culture of today. What comes next is faster, an ongoing pursuit of performance, innovation, and design. It's electrifying ideas, making bold moves. Faster is owning the world record again and again and again.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Together we are forever faster. We are the force that's unstoppable. Because in a world that changes in the blink of an eye, our instinct is to move fast. Incredibly fast. Never resting, never stopping, never backing down. We see that life is a sport. We play forever faster. So move with us. We'll write the future history of sport and culture together.
Yeah, the sound definitely made that. It would have been pretty underwhelming without it. John, did you have a question? I saw your hand went up before he started messing around with the video.
It was kind of just like a neither here nor there question, but like looking at your career trajectory, going to New Balance and Puma, and I don't want to get you in trouble, but like any dreams or aspirations about trying to go over to Team Jordan?
Not really. I mean, I've had so I've been in the industry long enough where I've had some opportunities to go to Jordan. It's just a different animal, right? Like for me, what I've come to realize is the grass is not always greener, right? And I have a lot of friends at Jordan and Nike and Converse, that whole conglomerate there. And there's a lot more, let's say, there's a lot more bureaucracy, right? There's a lot more red tape to do things. They're not as entrepreneurial. It's a lot of top-down driven conversations, right? With the at PUMA, they give you enough room to hang yourself, right? Like enough rope to hang yourself. Like they give you a task and they say go do it. They don't care how you do it, pretty much. I mean, as long as it's legal, but you have to figure out those things, and I appreciate that. I've come to really value that in my life. And, I know going to Jordan and the roles that I've been offered there would require a lot more, let's say, guardrails and not necessarily the freedom that I've become accustomed to at Puma. So, while, Jordan is great and I love Jordan, I grew up a Jordan kid and things like that. When it comes to the business side of it, not exactly a fit for me. At least not with the roles that I've been offered so far. So yeah. And again, I'm not really trying to move to Portland either. That's the other thing. That's always been a sticking point too. No disrespect to anyone from Portland. But I have a good family base and a good network here in Boston, which is where our North American headquarters is. So moving across country would be tough for me. So but yeah, no, Jordan's great though. Like no, I'm no shade on Jordan. It's obviously one of the most influential and impactful brands on the planet. So
John coming with a controversial question, trying to get it, trying to get David in trouble. On that subject, David, what is the culture like at Puma? All of these guys in the call are people that are transitioning us out of the military right now. So culture is a huge thing in what they're looking for.
Yeah, so like I said, it's very entrepreneurial, right? We're a big global brand, so there are some guardrails and things like that that you have to follow, but for the most part, you are given a task and you're expected to figure it out. On the flip side, there's not a lot of like there's direction for sure, but there's not a lot of like hand holding, right? You have to be one of those people that's self-motivated and willing to go turn over rocks and figure things out and put things together yourself. There's training, but there's not a lot of, oh, this is the way we do it, so go do it this way, which is funny because we're a German company and they do have a lot of rules in Germany, but for our North American affiliate, which is who I work for, it's for lack of a better term, guerrilla warfare. Like we just gotta figure it out. You gotta figure it out. And like the challenge for us too is the reality is that we sit in North America, like I said, which is the most competitive market on the planet, with
Mhm.
the biggest brands too, right? All competing. And Nike is based here, right? Jordan is based
Oh,
here.
wow.
So they have a cultural advantage in terms of speed to understanding trends and cultural shifts that are happening on the ground here. Whereas, we might see it too, but it takes longer for us to, feed that back through the German filter and
Mhm.
get it to move. All these brands, they're big machines, so it's when there's shifts in the marketplace, there's sometimes a lag between the recognition of that shift and then the execution of optimizing what's going on because of that shift, right? So, that's always a challenge, always going to be a challenge, but one that I've become adept at and I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. After 15 years, I'm sure you've had to.
Yes, yes.
Andrew, go ahead, ask your question.
Hey, David. Hey, thanks for coming on today. My question was, since you've been doing this and you've gone all over the world, and especially you work for a German-owned company, how did you overcome those cultural barriers and even language barriers when you're trying to deal with all these different people that you have to deal with?
So, starting with the language barrier thing, first and foremost, luckily for us, I mean, just about everybody that I've encountered speaks English, right? Like,
Mhm.
like there's now I will say this. There's a lot left in the gray area when it's English to English translation. Like they say they're speaking English, they speak English service-wise, but there's like nuances that get missed sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's that challenge. But generally speaking, again, we have the advantage of most international commerce being done in English. So, that's been now the cultural thing is a very big difference, right? There are cultural sensitivities that we have in North America and in the US in particular that are born from our history and the way our society
Mhm.
is set up that they do not have in other areas, right? So sometimes you have to remind them, that we're dealing with North America, we're dealing with the US, and there are sensitivities. I'll give a good example. The word plantation for us has a visceral meaning, right? Like we know what a plantation is and what historically that has meant. Plantation to them in Europe in particular is just a farm. It's just another name for a farm. There's no context, right? Like that we like that there's no North American context for them. Plantation is just a big farm. So, I ran into a scenario once where they wanted to do this whole thing about plantations because it's a color story for them. It's like green. It was like a color green, and they wanted plantation green. Da, 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 da. Da. I was like, not in a million years can we market it as plantation green in the US, right? Like that is just you can't do that. Like, there's no way we can allow that. So, but again, it took months for them to understand because they didn't have the cultural context. At
Mhm.
Nike, that's not even a conversation that would be had, right? It's just like it wouldn't happen. With the Germans, when they're starting things, there's just again a different cultural understanding. So we go through those conversations. Some of them are funny, some of them are not. But we work through it, and at the end of the day, knock on wood, for the most part, we've been able to avoid a lot of those missteps because they're open to listen, right? We have good relationships, my colleagues trust us and my team and myself and all of us in North America to ensure that we're steering the brand appropriately within this region. So, again, it might take time, but when we do say X, Y, and Z needs to happen, again, also because we're the largest region on the planet, they do tend to acquiesce to what we need to do in order to be successful in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
Are you?
Good, good. Just had a quick question. Are you guys currently searching for anybody to model the upcoming products or anything?
Yeah, always. We're always in search of models. You know, uh, I can connect you with the agency that handles our model searches if you'd like,
Sure.
but if you're personally looking, but yeah, that is a constant search for new models and people to represent whatever stories or whatever product lines that we're marketing at the time.
Well, that's definitely something I'm interested in. So I guess I'll connect with you on LinkedIn if you're on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Feel free. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
John said product testing. Send anybody some free shoes.
Yeah, product testing is also something we have. I have to find out what the link is. I haven't used it in a while, but I can send it to you guys and you can distribute it. But we do have product testing, especially in particular for our running shoes and our basketball shoes, any performance shoes, really, true performance shoes that we're testing for future seasons. You can sign up for wear tests and be a part of that program.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Is it a one-time thing? Like you sign up and you test one product for one campaign, or is it something
No,
somebody could do?
yeah, it's something people do all the time. Like we have a lot of wear testers that have been with us for years,
Wow.
especially in running. Especially if you're a person that is avid runner and can give us, well articulated sound feedback, they'll come back to you time and time again.
Yeah. How does somebody get qualified for that? Like what a
You just fill out the thing and then you kind of assign like so it'll ask you questions like how many miles do you run a week? And then, or like how long you've been running? Do you run trails? Do you run road races? Do
yeah.
you do and you fill out this survey and then they'll assign you like, whatever product lines are we're testing whatever and that match up with your profile and then
Hmm.
send you that product.
Interesting. That's very cool. Do you do it for like John mentioned the golf shoes earlier? Would it be the same situation? How many holes do you golf a week?
Yeah, I don't know what the survey is for the golf shoes, to be honest. But I'm sure it'll be something similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bailey, you have a question?
Hi, yes. I do have a question for you, David. Just because you've been in these kind of like fashion, like culture forward companies, do you have to kind of have your like you need to be fashionable, you need to kind of like have know-how about stuff like that, or is it strictly like you can be good at organization and like stuff like that and be successful, or do you also need to be kind of ear to the street kind
Okay.
of?
It depends highly on your role. Trust me, there's plenty of people in all these organizations that have zero fashion sense, have no idea what's going on in pop culture, like no clue. But they're not in roles where that is necessary, right? There's a lot of roles, to your point, that are more around organizational excellence, logistic excellence, things that really don't have, they're more, let's say, structurally business oriented rather than, doing what I do, which is consuming a lot of pop culture and turning it into product ideas, right? They're different roles. So yes, there's plenty of people that are not fashionable
Okay.
whatsoever, and they're highly successful and well paid.
Thank you.
Seems like you have a few personal situations with that, the way you
No,
reacted.
I mean, no, they're good. I mean, we need them too, right? Like it's, teamwork makes the dream work. So, there's all kinds of functions that, trust me, there's shit that they do, excuse my language, that I would never do. I don't know how to do it, don't want to do it. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
everybody, you need everybody for the organization to work.
absolutely. Payne, go ahead.
I have a question about like how you guys handle the leftover or like something like you guys doing the rotate, right? So every time you have like something leftover or like something it's like you cannot sell, or how you guys handle those?
So there's many different ways to handle excess inventory, right? So, um, some things we destroy. We just destroy it because it's supposed to be premium in nature, and like when there's leftovers, you don't ever want to have that product marked down or anything like that. So we destroy it, or gift it to celebrities or influencers, things like that. Then there's product which a long time ago, a guy I used to work with at New Balance told me, he said there's no such thing as an ugly shoe, just an ugly price, right? There's always a price where the shoe becomes likable, wearable, fashionable, right? So you just have to find that price. So there's a lot of times we'll do that, right? We'll liquidate product for lower price points at some however you want to describe them, value retailers. So you think about your Marshalls, your Targets, your Kohl's of the world. We'll sell them off-price product, Burlington off-price product that we're trying to liquidate. And they usually have a way to take care of that for us. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody will buy it if it's cheap enough. Somebody's
Exactly.
gonna take it.
Exactly.
Chris,
Exactly.
go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, David? I've always loved the way Puma shoes look. But one of the issues I've always had is I have wide feet, and Puma tends to run pretty narrow for most of the shoes that I have seen. Has Puma started coming out with wide shoes, or do they have wide shoes? Because I really like Puma, but I just haven't been able to find any that can fit my wide feet. So
So it's funny you mentioned that, Chris. That is a great question. And that has been uh, one of the banes of my existence for many years at Puma. So I came from New Balance, which, if you're familiar with New Balance, they sell a lot of wide shoes. Fit is the primary selling point in the marketplace for a long time. Now they're a lot more fashionable than they used to be, but fit was a huge part of their business. So Puma has come a long way. We do make some wider shoes. We do have bigger sizes now. But generally speaking, we do have a lot of narrow shoes because, again, our business is born in Europe. They tend to have smaller people, they don't have as many wide foot people, and we have our obesity issues and things like that in the US. So they're not always as, let's say, sensitive to those things. But in North America, we are, right? So we'll resize things. And we've done a lot over the last, in particular, since COVID, a lot to try and increase our inclusive sizing. So again, we're not where we need to be, but we're building towards that and making improvements steadily season after season.
Awesome. They're making some
appreciate
jokes.
that.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat and they're making me laugh. I had completely lost my train of thought. Going back to the trends, how do you guys keep up with the trends of Germany and North America? Like, because they're very different. So how does the marketing work on that side?
So trends are a funny thing, right? So, you know, one of the things that people aren't aware of unless you work in the fashion industry is there's a handful of trend agencies that basically every major brand subscribes to, and they basically dictate what becomes trends, right? So if you think about WGSN, Pantone, companies like that. They essentially will do trend forecasts 5 years out, style forecasts 5 years out, and it's all based on like you know, socio-economic things and like psychological things. Like there's ways that over the course of history, people have reacted to color based on macroeconomic factors, societal factors, and things like that. Like if
Yeah.
there's more turmoil, then red is a hotter color. If things are calmer, then browns are a hotter color. Like things like that. You know what I mean? And I'm generalizing, but like you get information like that. And so the question always is, it's like a chicken or the egg question. It's does the consumer dictate the trend, or is it that all of us big companies that and all of them, even small companies, subscribe to these trend agencies, these trend forecasting agencies, we all get the same forecast, then put enough of that same thing into the marketplace where the consumer doesn't really have a choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because it and like let's put like and like we're also telling them, right? Because we'll take those trends and then we'll apply it to every major celebrity, all these big marketing campaigns or whatever. So then it's told to the consumer that it's cool, right? So the trend thing is a funny thing. How we distinguish between trends in different regions, so Germany versus US, comes down to, functions like myself being embedded into these organizations where we um, do a lot of trend forecasting ourselves, right? So we take the WGSN things, which is done in the aggregate, but then we distill it down to conversations that we have with consumers. So you have focus groups that we'll do with high school kids and blah, 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 whatever demographic we're going after. There's actually now there's even AI modeling or whatever that we'll do, right? So essentially so AI can aggregate like let's say consumer sets based on different things, right? So that so you plug into like the system, whatever. It's like median income, um, regional location, blah blah blah. You put all this stuff in, and then AI will search the internet, look at what the demographic is gravitating towards, and then spit you back how they're going to react to certain things, right? It's still not a great system, but it is something that we do utilize as a data point because it can aggregate so much information. It's a lot easier to do that and it'll get perfected. It's learning all the time, whatever. But it's easier to do that than focus groups sometimes because the problem with focus groups is people are people, right? And they can be influenced by the strongest voice in the room. So you can't always get accurate information from focus groups when there's a outsized voice influencing and steering the conversation, right? So there's all kinds of things that we need to do. But again, and then we talk to our retailers all the time, get on the ground with the sales associates, talk to them, understand what they're seeing from the consumer, what's trending, what they're seeing the consumer come in and gravitate towards, things like that. So there's a lot of data points that we use to make the decisions, but it does start up top with these aggregate trend forecasts that we do have like way in advance or whatever. And it's funny to see how accurate some of those things can be even 5 years out. And again, because of all the things I talked about, because of our marketing and how we apply that information. But then it does come all the way down to the local conversations, right? And so that's how we account for the regional differences because those like trends generally will populate themselves at different times in different places, but they all kind of get to them at some point, right? So North America in particular is trend leading. So we tend to be early adopters of trends, whereas Germany is not trend leading. They're much later adopters of things. Because I mean, Germany in particular, since we're using, I mean, they're after London, they're after England, France, Paris, there's like Munich is
Behind the
great,
curve.
but they're way down the when it comes to trend, they're way down the bell curve. So we just have to be cognizant of that and understand how consumers move, like what's moving them in real time versus what we plan for that particular season, and have a combination of both, right? Which is where the regional creation team comes in for each specific region to ensure that because the global product range is going to always be infused with the aggregate, right? To
Hmm.
get down to the finite nuances of each individual region, you had the regional creation teams that supplement that. And so you can understand the difference. So the German global range is built on 18-month timelines, right? So they're 18 months out, where the regional teams are built on 9 to 6 month timelines. So we're much closer to going to market than what our German counterparts are doing, right? So that's how we kind of slice it to make sure we're accounting for as much nuance as possible.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. 5 years out is insane. Because I always
Yeah.
wondered how brands reacted so quickly to trends. You would see a trend pop up and a brand would have something for it immediately. But that makes way more sense that you're planning it way far ahead and then you're kind of influencing those trends.
Yes.
That's really cool. That's so interesting. Going back way back to the beginning of your story, you said that you kind of started this whole thing out of a passion, which is what we really try to get everybody in here to do because almost a lot of veterans change what they want to do. They make a career shift after they get out of the military. So we encourage everybody to kind of get into something that they love. So what did you do you said you networked a lot and you made a lot of connections in the industry. How did you do that?
Well, so prior to being in the industry, I spent so like I said, I was a sneaker collector. Like I bought a lot. I had a lot. I still have a lot of sneakers. It's a sickness. But I spent a lot of time in sneaker shops. So in Boston, we had Bodega and Concepts, which are, sneaker boutiques that sell high-end limited edition stuff, whatever. I just
Mhm.
used to hang out there, right? Like and go to all their events and things like that. So even before I got into the industry, I was already, you know, well versed in some of that stuff. I also worked retail as well. So growing up, I worked at the Gap. I worked at Foot Action for a second, but mainly just to get the discount so I could get sneakers. Um, but that helped me though. That did help me give me a foundation in understanding sneaker culture, understanding
Mhm.
retail to a certain degree. And when I got into the corporate setting, making sure I stayed in tune with that stuff. So for my entire career, even now. Like I will go sit at a mall, go sit at a Foot Locker, just observe people. Like, my partner, she knows I do this all the time. Like I build consumer profiles like by the minute, like all the time. Like I look at who's coming in, what they're wearing on their feet. I start with their feet and then I looked all the way up how they're styling it, right? And you can, if you pay attention enough, you can see the trends like as they're happening, right? So you see enough people wearing like I'm sure I don't know if you're aware of this, but like New Balance is going through a hot cycle right now, right? So you
Yeah.
see enough people wearing New Balance and it does start to it feels random at first, but then you start to see it enough time. So I saw New Balance coming before it got to the aggregate, right? Like yeah, I mean New Balance is also a company I used to work for, so I pay attention to them a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could start to see it happening and you start seeing it at the high end before you start seeing it in the commercial channels, right? So when I was going to the sneaker boutiques, again, the Concepts, the Kith, the Bodegas, or whatever,
Mhm.
the high end stuff, the limited edition stuff started moving crazy. Like it was selling out, selling out, selling out. And that doesn't always cascade down into commercial mass, but oftentimes it does. And usually the commercial mass side of it does not happen without the heat up top, right? Without there
Yeah.
being those opinion leading consumers buying something at a high rate, it almost never turns into commercial mass without that. And it doesn't even need to be the particular shoe. Sometimes it's a particular shoe that's being sold in limited colors and limited editions that then cascades down into the commercial and they're buying the more standard available colors and that model is hot. but a lot of times it's just the brand, right? The brand
Mhm.
becomes hot. So the brand gets hot up top at the, again, like the better department stores, the boutiques and things like that. Then the brand gets hot in the lower channels too, like in everything underneath it. So again, the mall-based stores like a Foot Locker and all that, all the way down to Famous Footwear, which is why that what I do, which is Puma Select. So I manage our product ranges that go into all those high-end boutiques, and then all the partnerships that go in there as well, and then provide elevation, brand elevation, and impressions for the brand. That's why that's ultra important to us, right? And that's why I said at the beginning of this, it isn't always about selling shoes.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's about the impressions too. So when you start to see enough people buying your stuff at those high-end retailers, and then the resale market where people are buying it, and like celebrities are starting to get styled in it because they're requesting it from their stylist, or their stylist is seeing the trend, and that all that stuff creates the halo over the rest of the brand that allows us to sell like mass market commercial volume of many different things. So yeah,
I'm learning so much today. This is intriguing. I don't know about everybody else, but
crazy
this is
world.
so cool. Yeah. I just have one last question. So if anybody else has any, just raise your hand and we can ask after. But anybody that wants to get into this kind of world but doesn't have any experience, where's a good place for them to start?
Retail, to
Mm,
be honest. Like so, like I'll tell you this, I've worked with Foot Locker for 20 years now. Basically all their execs started on a shop floor somewhere in some store in somewhere in the US, right? Like I'm talking about the guys at the top of the food chain, like not to call it, but they're making millions of dollars, right? And they started
yeah.
on shop floors, right? That is probably the easiest way. And again, you have to do stuff to work your way up, and please, if you're in those positions, take on projects and any kind of internal learning and things like that to elevate yourself and separate yourself. Don't just show up and collect a check. But like that is probably the easiest way to get in. The other way is, getting into entry level positions in a brand like mine. Customer service is always a good one. Look, internships are always a good one. We do hire a lot of interns, things like that. Those are probably the best ways to start.
Okay. Awesome. Chris, do you have another question?
David, I don't know if you watch a lot of TikTok or anything like that or social media stuff, but there's like this big trend where I was seeing with sneakers. You know, they have these big sneaker conventions. People go around and, like, they buy shoes and stuff.
Hmm.
But they have this mystery box thing. I don't know if you've seen where people buy the mystery boxes.
Yes.
Puma should get in on that and like only find people with wide feet and sell mystery boxes to them.
Yes. Only wide feet mystery boxes. Noted.
If Puma comes out with that in the next year, you better get Chris in on a check.
Hey,
Yeah, absolutely.
the shoes you give them still got to be narrow. They can't use them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
Laura, thank you so much for coming on today, but this was a super good. You were our last speaker of the day, so it was a really fun way to end our day.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you again, all of you, for your service. It's greatly appreciated by me and all my colleagues.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
I have a good